Donald Trump's relationship with our neighbors to the north hasn't been particularly great to start his presidency, but it's about to take a turn for the worse. Because, of course, after Donald Trump decided that our closest ally was going to be someone who we were going to start a trade war with, Canada had to respond. The government, of course, with retaliatory tariffs, but individual Canadians, both in the United States and Canada, have their own response in the form of protests of U.S. goods, or a particularly fun one, a bit of booing Donald Trump and booing our national anthem at sporting events, hockey and basketball games. And Republicans aren't too happy with this, and they're really going to be upset when they saw who was at the center of some booing that took place last night. It was Justin Trudeau. We're going to get into all of it, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into the booing that happened of Donald Trump last night, I think we have to add a little bit of context to why with this clip right here.
Disgrace.
Mr. President, a few years ago, Gulf of America, Canada, Greenland, Gaza, all these are very muscular foreign policy. How does this align with America first?
Because it makes us bigger, stronger, and better, and more protective. We need Greenland because of national security, international security, world peace. And we'll have to do that. Canada, we'll see what happens with Canada, but the people of Canada would be paying less than half of the tax. If you look at the tax, they're going to be paying less than half the tax. They don't pay very much for military, and the reason they don't pay much is they assume that we're going to protect them. That's not an assumption they can make, because why are we protecting another country? Now, I love the people of Canada. We have a great relationship. But if they became our 51st state, it would be the greatest thing they could ever do. It would be unbelievable. It would be a cherished state. And think of how beautiful that country would be without that artificial line running right through it. Somebody drew it many years ago with a ruler, just a line. You look at how beautiful that is, wow, it would be very exciting. But if you look at Canada, it would be cherished as a 51st state. They don't pay their share of military in NATO. They pay very little for military. They're not protected at all. And the reason is they think we're going to protect them. The other thing is we subsidize them to the tune of about $200 billion a year. If we stop doing that, if we stop allowing them to make cars through tariffs and other things, cars, trucks, etc., what they make, they're not viable as a country.
So, yeah, I don't know how a Canadian couldn't see that and not want to boo our national anthem and Donald Trump. I totally understand it. And, of course, I've said a couple of times on the show, and I feel like I'm pretty spot on with this assessment, that Justin Trudeau feels more like the American president when he speaks than Donald Trump does. He has been much more apologetic to Americans about the retaliatory tariffs that Canada has placed on U.S. products, understanding that it will cause real harm to people's lives, unlike Donald Trump, who spent his entire campaign lying and saying, no, tariffs, they'll be great, they're not going to cost you any money. And then he got into office, like, yeah, there's going to be some pain. It's going to hurt for a while. He's like, it's not going to bother me, but, your eggs will now be $12. They've gone up, 300% since Donald Trump has taken office? And he doesn't really seem apologetic in any way. He admits to it a little bit, that his tariff plan is a disaster. But again, this is a guy who doesn't care about anyone but himself, so he's not going to admit any emotion. He's not going to show us that he cares in any way, but he will get upset, and he already has, about a bit of booing. And it's not just that Donald Trump was booed last night, not just the U.S. anthem was booed last night, but Justin Trudeau was at this USA versus Canada hockey game that took place. So before we get into the booing, here's a little tweet from Trudeau right here. So Justin Trudeau was at the game tweeting about being proud of his country, of course. So Trudeau was there, and there were a couple of clips of him, enjoying the game. But the big one, the standout clip, was, of course, this right here. So that has driven MAGA, as you would expect, into an absolute frenzy of anger, rage, just melting down online, because that's what they do. It's not a shock. But again, it does feel pretty warranted. I think back to the J.D. Vance tweet saying, "Oh, spare me the outrage, spare me the tears of Canada is our closest ally." Although, Canadians have given their lives fighting in war efforts alongside the United States to protect both their freedoms and ours. JD doesn't seem to care about that, doesn't care about the trading relationship, which is his home state of Ohio's best and biggest trading partner is, you guessed it, Canada. But again, these are two guys in Trump and Vance, and we'll throw Elon in there, because why not? We hate him, who don't care about anything else but themselves. And they really have a poor understanding, it's clear, of history. And it's something I continue to reiterate on this show, that I feel that there has been a tremendous misreading of the political environment by not just Trump, Musk, and Vance, but all these corporate players who have bent the knee to Donald Trump, these information CEOs in any industry, right? We see so many business leaders capitulating to Trump because they thought he won this massive victory, right? Which it did seem to look like on election night. It seemed like Donald Trump won by a pretty overwhelming margin. But as those votes trickle in from California, more absentee ballots are counted. Of course, some states take longer than others. We could see, oh, sure, Donald Trump won the popular vote, but he didn't even win 50%. And it was a pretty tight election in all of the swing states. This was not some overwhelming victory for Donald Trump as a person. People just wanted their stuff cheaper. They wanted eggs cheaper. They wanted groceries at large cheaper. They wanted rent cheaper. They wanted gas cheaper. Donald Trump has not delivered on that, and he won't. And in fact, he's only made it worse with his trade war with Canada and Mexico and about to be the rest of the world. They have misread what their supposed mandate, which they don't have, is. And it's about to cause them real problems, especially with Canada's continued response, which we can see more of from Justin Trudeau right here.
What was J.D. Vance's response when you brought up steel in Ohio? And did you two talk about anything else?
It was just a quick greeting exchange. I highlighted that $2.2 billion worth of steel and aluminum exports from Canada go directly into the Ohio economy, often to contribute to manufacturing that happens there. He nodded and noted it, but it wasn't a longer exchange than that.
The White House says that the total tariffs on aluminum and steel could be 50%. What's your response to that, and why do you think that President Trump continues to escalate his threats?
I think it's important to understand that Canada will respond as appropriate in a calibrated but extremely strong way, regardless of what the U.S. moves forward with. We don't want to be in a trade dispute. We think that the best thing for all of us in North America is to continue to work together, to focus on some of the international trade challenges, whether it be non-market economies or rising authoritarian economies, that need to be countered by friends and allies working together on energy, on AI, on critical minerals, on the kinds of things that we can do to create shared prosperity across not just our continent, but all Western democracies. This is our focus. If we have to take some time to put that on pause while we stand up for Canadian jobs, while we stand up unequivocally for Canadian sovereignty, we'll do that. It's not our choice. We don't want to be doing that, but we will, regardless of the level of tariffs that eventually the administration might move forward on. We will be equally unequivocal in our response.
When Mr. Trump started talking about Canada being a 51st state, your government's original response was to say that it was a joke. Now you're saying that this is a real thing. Can you take us into your mindset? What was the moment that made you switch from thinking it's a joke to a real thing?
I don't think there's a switch. I think, as I've said unequivocally from the beginning, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that Canada will ever be the 51st state. At the same time, from having worked with President Trump for over 8 years now, I can tell you that we have to take seriously what he says and make sure we're responding appropriately. And quite frankly, the response of Canadians over these past weeks has been inspiring, as people have been there for each other, people have been changing their vacation plans, people have been looking at ways to buy Canadian, to support local businesses, to diversify their supply chains to places like Europe and Asia. This is a response of Canadians who are saying, yeah, this is going to be tough, but we're going to double down on Canadian pride and standing up for each other.
Trump again talked about Canada's defense spending, and at one point he said, we don't pay so much when it comes to defense spending. This is a quote, because they assume that the U.S. is going to protect Canada, and that's not an assumption that they can make. If there was to be an attack on Canada, would you expect that the U.S. would respond and defend Canada?
We are all members of NATO. I had a great meeting with the Secretary General of NATO this morning, and we're part of an alliance that is there to stand up for each other. And I will highlight that Canada does take very seriously its responsibilities around defense, not just of Canada, but of North America. NORAD is the only alliance in the world where two countries have agreed to work together to protect their own homeland, their own territory. There's no other place in the world where two countries work together, and we both do our share of it.
Of course, Canada is not going to be the 51st state. And of course, Donald Trump will eventually bend the knee to Trudeau and Claudia Sheinbaum, Mexico, and end his stupid trade war, which he kind of already has without them conceding anything. But this is just a part of the broader distraction. That is what Donald Trump is always focused on, distracting from his failures, because he's caused this. He is the reason prices are going up. He is the reason we are seeing surprise inflation in January already. And it's about to get worse, specifically for MAGA. So, yeah, if you thought the booing of the national anthem was upsetting you, MAGA, wait till you go to the grocery store. Donald Trump has caused you a lot of problems. Problems we're going to be talking about on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, you drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.